Chapter 44, He Isn't Man Enough. Han Sen could tell that Yang Manli did not like him. When he was ready to go, Yang Manli answered a comlink call and Qin Xian's holographic image popped out. "Manli, come to my office right now." Qin Xian saw Han Sen there and said, "Bring him with you." Han Sen followed Yang Manli to Qin Xian's office and saw Qin Xian watching a video from the Skynet. "Manli, come see this video." Qin Xian replayed it. Standing on the side, Han Sen secretly thought, "This is the video of me taking the physical test. Someone paid to record this. People must have found out that I'm $. There were so many halls in the test center, and it cost money to watch others taking the test." He thought no one would care about a nobody like himself and did not expect this to happen. If Son of Heaven knew $. Was Han Sen, he would be in a lot of trouble. Starry Group was powerful in the alliance, and there was no way Han Sen could compete with them. $? You know who he is? Yang Manli was somewhat surprised to see the golden figure in the video. No. The video only covered the robot channel, and he was wearing beast soul armor the entire time. Couldn't tell who he is. Qin Xian's words suddenly sent Han Sen from hell back to heaven. He secretly wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. "I have to be more careful. This time I got lucky, next time there may really be a leak," Han Sen secretly warned himself. "Excellent." Yang Manli only said one word after watching it. "Son of Heaven told me about this video. After watching this, we can be certain that $'s armor is a sacred blood beast soul, and he must be from a prominent family because he is definitely practicing an advanced hyper-geno art." Another clue was that he took the test on planet Roka. "We must find him. He can be of great value to us," Qin Xian said. Yang Manli thought about it and said, "There are no prominent families on Roka. Maybe he was just passing by and has left by now." "I agree. Let's give it a shot." "He's worth it," said Qin Xian. Han Sen was frightened that Qin Xian and Yang Manli might find out the truth. Han Sen cleared his throat and said, $' was just relying on his sacred blood beast souls. He had no real skills. There's no need to look for him." Yang Manli gave Han Sen a hard look and said, "What do you know? The ability to get the beast souls is enough proof of his ability. Also, those beast souls can be of great use to Bullseye." "What ability?" Han Sen thought. "It's just pure luck." Manli is right. His armor brings amazing defense, and Bloody Slayer has strengthened his physical strength and speed. Coupled with his practice of advanced hyper-geno arts, he must be able to contain most sacred blood creatures, and that's very useful to us, said Qin Xian. "If we have him in our gang, we won't have to collaborate with Son of Heaven and Fist Guy anymore to hunt sacred blood creatures," Yang Manli said with great hope. "Wow! You just wanted me to risk my life as your tank. How vicious," thought Han Sen, drinking from a cup to cover up his fear. "Agreed. So, do your best to find him," Qin Xian nodded. "But since he's from a prominent family, even if we find him, he may not be willing to join us," Yang Manli sighed. Qin Xian blinked and joked, "I know you like a strong man like him. Try to seduce him." Ahem. Han Sen choked on the water he was drinking. Yang Manli gave Han Sen a fierce glare, and Han Sen quickly took another sip from his cup. "I don't mind seducing him. I'm only afraid he isn't man enough." Ahem. This time, Han Sen choked so hard that he was almost in tears. Yang Manli looked at Han Sen with disgust. "Fortunately, $' won't be a scum like him." "Hey!" yelled Han Senator. Yang Manli shut the office door and completely ignored him. "Station Master, your minion is too arrogant. I'm your guy and she shouldn't talk to me like that," Han Sen said with anger. "Transfer me to another team. I don't want to be in Bullseye where she is the leader." Han Sen was a little worried that Yang Manli would see that he was dollar if he stayed close to her for a long time. Qin Xian patted Han Sen on the shoulder. You were a scum, but you can change. Follow Manli's lead. Although you may never be like dollar, you could stop being a scum. There is still hope. Sending Han Sen out, she did not give him a chance to speak again. Han Sen left the teleport station, went back home and checked out the video on the Skynet. He then found out that the video had more than 100 million hits. Han Sen made sure that he couldn't be identified from the video and felt relieved. Seeing the compliments under the video, he was quite pleased with himself. Looks great indeed. Chapter 45, 1,000 Arrows. The next morning, Han Sen entered God's sanctuary and saw the copper-toothed beast had become purple all over except for the tip of its tail. He was happy to know it was about to become a sacred blood creature in a day or two. Watching the beast over and over again, Han Sen left for the bullseye training camp. When Han Sen arrived, he met an acquaintance. Su Xiaoqiao. Han Sen was surprised to see Su Xiaoqiao, who was wiping the bows and arrows at the shooting range. Ass freak, how do you know me? Su Xiaoqiao was also surprised. How do I not know you? Everyone was calling doll because of you. Han Sen smiled while secretly hating Xiaoqiao. Thanks to him, Han Sen had such a strange nickname. Su Xiaoqiao was very proud. If it wasn't for me, dollar wouldn't be as popular as he is now. Good job. Han Sen gave him a thumbs up, while thinking, you little bastard. Brother, why did you choose to enter bullseye? Su Xiaoqiao asked Han Sen. Because you can stand away from the creatures to reduce risks. Safety first, laughed Han Sen. Great minds think alike. Su Xiaoqiao felt like he finally met someone who understood him. The only good thing about bullseye is safety. I wouldn't come here in a million years if it wasn't for this. The team leader Manli looks great, but she is a sadist. You know what we call her behind her back? Nazi. Su Xiaoqiao and Han Sen suddenly shuddered as they were talking. They turned back and saw Manli standing near them. She must have heard everything they said. Han Sen and Su Xiaoqiao were petrified. Su Xiaoqiao quickly put on a smile. Manli, I was just teasing the new guy. In fact, you are so charming that. Use a 7.0 practice bow. You each have to shoot 1,000 arrows. Don't leave until you are finished, said young Manli coldly and turned away. My God! 7.0 practice bow, 1,000 arrows? Why doesn't she just kill me? Su Xiaoqiao's smile collapsed. She won't be here anyway. She wouldn't even know how many arrows we shoot, said Han Sen. Brother, you are too naive. Of course Nazi has thought of this. There are people who are in charge of counting arrows. You can't shoot standing over the line. Nor can you miss the target, Su Xiaoqiao said in desperation. We will take our time then. She didn't say when we have to finish. Han Sen patted Su Xiaoqiao on the shoulder. With a strength rating of 9.1, 1,000 arrows with a 7.0 practice bow could be a difficult task, but it wasn't the end of the world. However, for Su Xiaoqiao, who only had a strength rating of 7, it was different. If he was going to shoot continuously, 100 arrows could kill him. The two took the practice bow and started. Standing next to Su Xiaoqiao, Han Sen was shooting at a slow pace. The other members of the bullseye team were all gloating at them. Several bullseye members carried a few bundles of practice arrows, and one of them said to Su Xiaoqiao, Xiaoqiao, keep practicing. We will hunt the sacred blood creature tomorrow. Another sacred blood creature found? When? Why didn't I know? Su Xiaoqiao said with wide eyes. Son of Heaven's gang found it. They couldn't hunt it by themselves, so they asked us to help. We will leave in the morning to hunt, but you won't be able to make it. 1,000 arrows will take you at least 3 days, the team member said with a grin. Enough said. Xiao Qiao, go practice, yelled an angry young man, the deputy head of Bullseye. After the other members had left, Su Xiaoqiao begged the angry man, Hongtao, please ask Manli to let me go tomorrow. I will double my practice time when I come back. You think this is a farmer's market where you can bargain? Manli said shoot 1,000 arrows, so you can't miss even one. Lu Hongtao gave Han Sen a hard look and said, and you, don't think you can get away with anything here just because you know Qin Xian. This is just a small lesson. Don't let me catch you or you will regret it. Lu, you know we meant well. Please help us out. Su Xiaoqiao passed a pile of cash to Lu Hongtao. Lu Hongtao threw the money on the floor and rebuked Su Xiaoqiao, you think you can bribe me? Rules are rules. You can't go anywhere unless you finish shooting 1,000 arrows. Lu Hongtao turned away after his speech. Han Sen was a bit surprised and asked Su Xiaoqiao, are the rules really so strict at Bullseye? Strict my ass. Lu always takes money from us, Su Xiaoqiao gritted his teeth and said. Why didn't he this time? Han Sen was confused. Su Xiaoqiao looked at Han Sen and whispered, you better be careful now. I think Manli is very upset with you, and Lu likes Manli a lot. He must be deliberately messing with you. Or else you are supposed to still go hunting even when punished. Han Sen suddenly realized why Lu Hongtao had looked at him with disgust and hatred. This is my fault. But no worries, we can still go tomorrow. Han Sen patted Su Xiaoqiao on the shoulder. What if we can't finish 1,000 arrows? Su Xiaoqiao sighed and suddenly thought of something, brother, are you sleeping with Qin Xian? If it's true, just talk to her and we can definitely go. Chapter 46, Endurance. Even if I am sleeping with Qin Xian, I wouldn't bother her with this. Moreover, there is really nothing going on, explained Han Sen. In our gang, Manli would only listen to Qin Xian. So, unless she helps us, we won't be able to go tomorrow. Su Xiaoqiao held Han Sen's hand, brother, dignity is worthless, but the sacred blood creature is priceless. If you really have something going on with Qin Xian, you need to beg her and let her do whatever she wants with you. You need to focus on the big picture. Han Sen sighed, unfortunately, there is really nothing. Then we are doomed. We will practice while others go hunting, Su Xiaoqiao said dejectedly. You don't have to be so frustrated. Even though I am not sleeping with Qin Xian, we can still go hunting tomorrow, Han Sen laughed. What do you have in mind? Su Xiaoqiao watched Han Sen helplessly. Just finish shooting these arrows today. Han Sen pointed to the bundles of arrows. Su Xiaoqiao said weakly, brother, we each have 1,000 arrows to shoot while standing 450 feet away from the target, and those that miss the target will not be counted. We need at least 3 days to do that. Not necessarily. Han Sen tried the practice bow, which was much lighter than Doomsday. A 7.0 practice bow means that you use the bow to practice rapid shooting with a strength rating at 7.0. For Doomsday, you only draw the string with a strength rating at 7.0. He picked up an arrow and shot it toward the target. Instantly, it ended up on the bullseye. Han Sen didn't pause but kept shooting. While he didn't hit the bullseye each time, all his arrows were on the target. Su Xiaoqiao had thought it was impossible to finish practicing today. Yet Han Sen had shot 36 arrows in a short while and didn't seem to need a break. Brother, great job! 10 arrows in a row with a 7.0 bow, praised Su Xiaoqiao. Any archer knows that rapid shooting consumes a lot of energy and a normal archer can only shoot 12 arrows in a row, while those who shoot 24 arrows in a row must be a lot stronger than what the bow requires. Han Sen just smiled and said to Su Xiaoqiao, don't just stand there. Let's finish the 2,000 arrows and go hunt the sacred blood creature. Ignorant, Lu Hongtao, who was supervising them, said with contempt. Being able to shoot 36 arrows was impressive, but 1,000 arrows was not so easy. Even if Han Sen had a strength rating over 8.0 or 9.0, he couldn't keep shooting at this pace. His arms and fingers would be wasted, so there was no way he could join the hunting tomorrow anyway. Han Sen also knew that shooting for a long time required more than just strength. However, he discovered that his muscles were incredibly tough and resilient. After shooting 24 arrows, his muscles got slightly sore. But as he shook out his arms, he felt fine again. Even if he used his muscles for a long time, his body would stay cool and strong. Han Sen knew it wasn't because of his Geno points, but his practice of jade skin. 1,000 arrows with the 7.0 practice bow was not hard for him. He had enough strength and endurance to do the task. Han Sen kept shooting, while the man counting arrows was thunderstruck at the sight of 40 arrows thickly dotting the target. "This guy is out of this world," he whispered. "Who are you talking about?" someone heard his whisper and asked. "Ass freak." "He shot 40 arrows and didn't even pause," the man counting the arrows said. "Ass freak? For real? Come and see if you don't believe me." Soon a few Bullseye members came to watch Han Sen shooting. After watching for a while, everyone was stunned. "Wow, all 3 targets we are full. That was all him?" "Yeah. Xiao Qiao only shot 12 arrows and hasn't even filled 1 target." "No way. That must be a 4.0 practice bow. You can't even tell the difference between a 4.0 bow and a 7.0 practice bow? They look nothing alike." The man counting rolled his eyes. More and more Bullseye members came around. Lu Hongtao could not help but stand up, staring at Han Sen, who was still shooting. More arrows. Han Sen hadn't had such fun with archery in a long time. When he was practicing alone, he could only shoot the few arrows he owned and then stop to collect the arrows from the target himself. Now he could shoot as many as he wanted and as long as he wanted. "Buddy, great job. This is the second bundle." Su Xiaoqiao untied another bundle of practice arrows, grabbed a bunch of arrows and stuck them in Han Sen's quiver. "Just started warming up." Han Sen smiled and shot another arrow. "Brother, if you shoot all the arrows and we can go hunting tomorrow, I will do anything for you. I'll even do your laundry," cried out Su Xiaoqiao. "Forget about laundry. How about cash?" laughed Han Sen. "Talking about money would hurt our friendship," replied Su Xiaoqiao. Han Sen paused every 50 arrows and used only his right hand to draw the string, instead of using both hands in turn. Chapter 47, Z-Steel Arrow. What is the noise outside? Young Monli heard it getting more and more noisy outside her office as she was reviewing the data of the sacred blood creature sent from Son of Heaven. Young Monli asked twice, but no one answered. She frowned and went to find out. Almost the entire Bullseye team was at the shooting range, cheering from time to time. Young Monli took out a telescope. Most of high-tech products lost their function in God's sanctuary, but primary instruments like the telescope still worked. Young Monli, starting to feel skeptical, put down the telescope and went to the shooting range. Ass freak, a real man, he's been going at this pace for so long. His endurance is invincible. I think 1,000 arrows was too light a punishment for him. He can probably finish before dinner. The Bullseye team saw Yang Monli coming over, and quickly ran back to training. They were not afraid of Lu Hongtao, but terrified by Yang Monli. Those arrows were all shot by him? Yang Monli asked Lu Hongtao. Except for target 9 and target 10. Lu Hongtao felt somewhat reluctant to answer her. I see. Yang Monli did not say anything and turned back to the office. Lu Hongtao did not know what Yang Monli was thinking and quickly asked, Monli, the punishment is too mild and it would set a bad example. Should we add another 1,000 to their punishment? No, young Manli left. Back in the office, young Manli took out Han Sen's profile and reviewed it. Great endurance, good geno point counts, strength rating is probably at 9.0. Integrated compulsory education graduate with excellent scores. Young Manli carefully read the profile, pondered for a moment and muttered, "I'll give him a chance, even just for the station master." Han Sen stopped after 500 arrows and rested for 2 hours before he resumed shooting. Although he could continue, he was afraid to scare everyone, so he took a break. By midnight, Han Sen and Su Xiaoqiao had shot 2,000 arrows. Han Sen had become famous in Bullseye and all members had changed their view of him. Anyone who could shoot 1,000 arrows in a day deserved respect. "Sen, I'm not easily impressed, but you are amazing." Although most of the arrows were shot by Han Sen, Su Xiaoqiao was also sore and tired. He put his arm around Han Sen's neck and gave Han Sen a thumbs up. "Don't mention it." "Do you know what kind of sacred blood creature we are going to kill tomorrow?" asked Hansen. "I'm so handsome that Manli's assistant couldn't resist my charm and told me everything," Su Xiaoqiao said triumphantly. "So what is it?" Han Sen didn't care for his bragging. "It seems to be a flying creature. There aren't many archers in Son of Heaven's gang, so they want our help," replied Su Xiaoqiao. Hansen frowned. "A sacred blood creature that can fly. That's tough." Sacred blood creatures were strong enough. If they had the ability to fly, it would be even harder to hunt them. After all, the range of the best alloy bows was only about half a mile and only a few people in First God Sanctuary could even draw the string of those bows. If the sacred blood creature flew too high, arrows wouldn't do it much harm. Also, the skin of sacred blood creature was so stiff that even the tip of saber arrows couldn't cut through. Han Sen knew that Bullseye must have beast soul bows and arrows. And there must be alloy arrows better than saber arrows as well. But he didn't think that young Manli would give him access to those. If he couldn't even pierce the skin of the sacred blood creature, even if this opportunity was heaven sent, he had no means to grasp it. "Seems that I should buy a Z-steel arrow," Han Sen pondered. Z-steel was not steel, but a kind of metal humans discovered 50 years ago. Its characteristics were similar to steel, but its toughness were far beyond steel. The toughness of an alloy arrow could be greatly improved by adding just a little Z-steel. And all alpha alloy had Z-steel added. Doomsday and the broadsword Han Sen seized from Lu Feng had Z-steel in them, but the content was quite low. The broadsword contained 0.3% Z-steel, while Doomsday contained 0.4% Z-steel in its body and 0.5% Z-steel in its string. If a weapon contained more than 10% Z-steel, it could cut through the bones of mutant creatures. And if a weapon contained more than 60% Z-steel, it would be as strong as the bones of sacred blood creatures. However, Z-steel was extremely rare and therefore, its price was quite high. The Alliance also had strict control over its production, so any alloy with more than 1% Z-steel would be hard to find. Although the tip of saber arrows contained a little Z-steel, it would not exceed 0.1%. Hence to hunt a sacred blood creature with saber arrows was next to impossible, even if he could shoot the arrows directly into a wound. Han Sen's ideal arrow was the Z-steel arrow, which was 1% Z-steel. However, it was so expensive that even with all the money he had at the moment, which was around $300,000, he could only afford one arrow with about 0.6% of Z-steel. Han Sen went home at night and logged into Polar Night Forum. If he couldn't find the right second-hand goods, he would have to buy a new one at the store. In Polar Night Forum, there was a post that claimed to sell weapons with 1.2% Z-steel. Han Sen noticed that the post was from an owner whose store had no license or legal permit. On the web page of the store there were only holographic images of the products and a comlink number. Chapter 48, Team Effort. Han Sen took a closer look and saw that there were holographic images of weapons in the making, which proved that the weapons were all handmade. After reviewing the images, Han Sen dialed the number on the web page. Someone answered, but didn't allow video chat. Han Sen could only hear his voice. "How can I help you?" the owner asked in a low male voice. "I saw on the forum that you sell weapons. Do you have arrows with higher percentage of Z-steel?" Han Sen did not expect that the content of Z-steel could really reach 1.2%. He'd be happy if it reached 0.8%. "I have 2 arrows made by myself. 1.2% Z-steel. 300,000 each," replied the man. "I want one." "Where can I check it out?" asked Han Sen. "I'll tell you the address." The man gave him an address and hung up. Han Sen followed the address to a red light district. Although it was already the middle of the night, the streets were still crowded. Han Sen waited for a while at the agreed spot and saw someone waving at him across the street. Hansen warily walked over to him. "You want to buy an arrow?" asked a guy in sunglasses and hoodie. Han Sen could only tell he was a middle-aged man. "Yes," Han Sen nodded. The man took out a box and placed it in front of Han Senator. He opened it up and there was a black steel arrow inside. "Can I test it?" asked Han Sen. "Suit yourself," replied the man casually. Han Sen took the arrow out and tested its balance. If an arrow wasn't balanced, it didn't matter what material it was made from. Excellent. Han Sen found this arrow had better balance than saber arrows. If the bow was strong enough, this arrow would always maintain stability. The man nodded and did not say anything. Han Sen pulled out his broadsword and asked the man, "Can I test it with my own weapon?" Without his permission, Han Sen didn't dare to test it that way. But technically speaking, if the arrow contained more than 0.7% Z-steel, his broadsword wouldn't even leave a mark on it. The man looked at the broadsword in Han Sen's hands and again said, "Suit yourself." With his permission, taking the arrow in one hand and the broadsword in the other, Han Sen fiercely slashed the broadsword at the arrow. Clang! Han Sen checked the arrow and was pleased to see there were no mark on the arrow, while his broadsword was chipped. Although he wasn't sure if the Z-steel content reached 1.2%, he knew it was great stuff. Great stuff. I'll take it. Hansen took out the $300,000 he had brought with him and paid the man. Of course, it was made from the bearing steel of old interstellar warships, hence the Z-steel content is a standard 1.2%. Also, the machine-made weapons are no match for my products. Let me know if you need something in the future, the man said and disappeared in the back lane. Han Sen returned home and tested the arrow more thoroughly. It was truly great, similar to the name brand arrows, and only 1/10 of the price. I was really lucky to find a true craftsman. Han Sen hadn't had high hopes because a lot of sellers of handmade weapons only produced mediocre products. For weapons like arrows that required a lot of skills to make, it was even less likely to find good ones from independent sellers. Han Sen was very satisfied with this arrow. Just the tip of the arrow showed incredible craftsmanship, as it must have been manually polished to be so sharp. Han Sen had briefly learned weapon making at school, but his work was not the high caliber of this weapon maker. It is a good arrow, but unfortunately I can only afford one. If I don't hit the target, there won't be a second chance. Han Sen checked his bank account and found he had less than $100,000 left. I wish I could buy something with it tomorrow. Han Sen slept for a while and teleported to God's sanctuary early in the morning. In Qin Xian's steel armor gang, Bullseye was the smallest team. Few people among civilians were interested in archery, so most Bullseye members had military background and could enter military schools if their scores qualified. When they entered God's sanctuary, they would report with the military force into the shelter they were assigned. Qin Xian's steel armor gang was the military force in steel armor shelter. The Alliance didn't have much power over God's sanctuary, but it still maintained some control. In each shelter, the largest gang typically had military background. Qin Xian led her people to the agreed place, and Son of Heaven's gang was already there. Compared to Steel Armor Gang, Son of Heaven's gang seemed rather unorganized. Luo Tianyang gave Han Sen, who was in the crowd, a cold stare, and judging by his look, Han Sen knew their business was not finished. After the two sides joined, Son of Heaven's gang led the way, marching into the mountains. Bullseye's place was at the end of the line, and Han Sen and Su Xiaoqiao were walking behind everyone else. "Sen, I think we should each bring a shield, to protect ourselves," Su Xiaoqiao said. "You're rich. Just buy a suit of Z-Steel armor," said Han Sen. Z-Steel is so heavy and not as portable as Beast Soul armors. And even primitive Beast Soul armors are tougher than Z-Steel armor, unless the Z-Steel content exceeds 10%. You know, we could only find weapons with at most 1% Z-Steel. So Beast Soul armors are in general much better. Su Xiaoqiao continued to say, "How nice if I could have the same Beast Soul armor as dollars. That's the only Sacred Blood Beast Soul armor I've seen in Steel Armor Shelter. I wonder what Beast Soul it was. From its look, I think it must be a fierce and mighty Beast Soul." Another Bullseye member jumped in. "That goes without saying. It must be a from phenomenal Sacred Blood creature," others agreed. Han Sen chuckled silently and wondered what they would say had they known the armor was from the weakest creature, Black Beetle.